also an MSNBC contributor, Jonathan Colegio, Director of Communications for American Crossroads, and Nia Malika Henderson, political reporter for the Washington Post. Thank you so much for joining us. Jonathan, I'll start off with you. Your super PAC obviously linked to Karl Rove, and it was Monday, I believe, that Joe Scarborough said, listen, Karl Rove and the other heavyweights of this party will have to get out front and show this man they're not backing him. American Crossroads, the president, released a statement, Stephen Law, saying Representative Aiken faces a simple choice. Will he help Democrats hold the McCaskill seat and potentially the Senate majority by staying in the race? That was out on Monday. Here we are now. He is still in the race and not backing down. What are your feelings, Jonathan?
Well, first of all, I mean, Todd Aiken's candidacy is dead. Whether he realizes that or not, he's probably out there in the field right now taking a poll, and he'll be able to determine that conclusively. But the facts are that his candidacy is dead. There's no way that he can win, and as long as he's on the ballot, we cannot be talking about the issues that matter most to Americans, the economy, jobs, taxes, debt, all of those issues. Instead, we're talking about Todd Aiken, like we are here in this discussion today. He really needs to leave the ballot for the good of his party, for the good of his country. This way we can move on to bigger and better things.
So you said right there, Democrats will hold on to that seat. McCaskill will. The good of the party now. That brings me to Congressman Ryan. John Lane, he said he stands behind his record, his pro-life record. He says, though, he is comfortable with Mitt Romney being the opposite there, being not opposed to abortions in case of rape or incest. Do you buy that he is comfortable when he at the same time says he does not regret co-sponsoring this bill with Aiken that had the language of, quote, forcible rape? Which is a real Paul Ryan, I guess I'm getting to here.
No, I mean, I absolutely believe him. I mean, it is in the direction of Paul Ryan's position. And Paul Ryan is a very pragmatic and practical guy. Is America going to come all the way around to his position? Well, I think that they might go in the direction of his position. I think that that is why he's comfortable with Governor Romney's position. And I think on the other side, I think that there were differences between Joe Biden and Barack Obama on the issue of partial birth abortion back in 2008. And again, they're able to get on the same ticket because they're of the same party and they want to, you know, they want higher office.
Michael, let me bring you back in. As Jonathan and other Republicans have said quite clearly, they think the race in Missouri is done, that it goes to McCaskill. With that said, the ramifications, the after effect, still following Paul Ryan, including today. You saw him there, not necessarily comfortable answering these questions, but still answering them.
I think the legacy of Aiken is that he's vaulted social issues back into the mainstream of this campaign. We went through the 2010 cycle without any conversation of social issues. It was all about Obamacare, the whole the Tea Party movement, the Gadsden flags and so forth. There was not a whiff of conversation about social issues. And regardless of what happens with Aiken and his individual candidacy, that will not be the situation. In fact, take a look no further ahead than Monday in what would have been a sleeper when the GOP convention adopts its platform. You can rest assured we'll be having this conversation on Monday and beyond, regardless of Aiken.
And Nia Malika, let me bring you in because, as Jonathan pointed out, the Republicans would like to talk about the economy and obviously the issues facing there as if Democrats know about that or even independents. But set that aside here. This is not one individual, these comments with Representative Aiken. I want to play what Steve King, the congressman from Iowa, just said recently. When he was asked about Aiken, he's defending him, but then he goes on to give his thoughts on the notion that somehow pregnancy is blocked in the event of a violent attack and rape. Let me play this.
Well, I just haven't heard of that being a circumstance that's been brought to me in any personal way, and I'd be open to hearing discussion about that subject matter.
And what he was talking about there, let me make it clear, Nia Malika, he was asked about whether or not women can get pregnant during a rape. And he said that he'd not heard of anyone getting pregnant during a rape. He had not come in contact with someone, so therefore maybe it doesn't happen. He's a Republican. He's another individual in that party with some questionable thinking there.
That's right, and there is a wing of the Republican Party, people in the pro-life community who agree with Steve King, who agree with Aiken's initial statement that, of course, he's backed off of. And so that's what's being brought to the fore, that there is a wing that actually believes that that pregnancy doesn't occur during a rape. I think what we're seeing is there is this reemergence of cultural wedge issues. And as much as I think Republicans did want to get away from these things, you hear, for instance, Paul Ryan on the stump today, or this was yesterday, saying that he is a Catholic and he's a gun owner. He's a deer hunter. And I think in that way there has been this realization that it can't just be a referendum on the economy, that this is going to be a base election, and in this way that a lot of these issues that we felt like in some ways we put to rest around abortion, around welfare, and around gun ownership have actually reemerged. And I think both of these sides are using these issues to gin up support in their base.
And to your point, and let me bring Jonathan in, Nia Malika pointed out the comments made by Congressman Ryan that he likes clinging to his gun and his religion, obviously a dig at remarks made by the president during the last election cycle. With that said, obviously there's some part of him that wants to talk about these social issues. If not, he would not have tried to rev up the crowd with those kinds of remarks, right?
Well, I mean, Paul Ryan is a conservative, and he wants folks to know that he's a conservative. He is also a pragmatic conservative. We see that in his record in the Congress. We see that in the way that he's actually promoting policies that will transform the way that we view entitlement. So he is a pragmatic guy. However, he is a conservative at the same time, and he's not backing off of his beliefs. He wants to get there, but maybe in a different direction.
But he is backing off from his beliefs. When he changes specifically from a bill he co-sponsored, and he now says, all right, this is Romney's lead, he could be the president. God forbid something were to happen to Governor Romney if he were elected. So his thoughts, his beliefs cannot be pushed to the side as if they don't count. Michael?
I believe that this election is an election where a candidate who's pro-life, like Paul Ryan, can be elected. However, if it gets to the level where the American people recognize that he's a candidate who doesn't want to recognize exceptions for rape, a woman who's raped and is told you must carry that pregnancy to term, that is a stone-cold loser. Yes, it's been in the platform in the past, but it really hasn't gotten to the surface of the conversation the way that it will now. That's the issue for Paul Ryan.
And what about the issue we often hear conservatives say, you know, Mitt Romney, Ryan, they want to talk about the economy, but yet he goes before this audience yesterday within his full right to say whatever he feels will connect with that audience, but he brings up guns and religion. It's as if you want your cake and eat it too. You want to bring up these social issues, these things that you know the crowd really wants to hear, but then when the questions get tough and you are pushed on some of these social issues, this is a distraction. I really want to talk about the economy, guys.
Well, I think in some ways it is true. They sort of want to have their cake and eat it too. On the one hand, they want to say that Obama isn't about the economy, that he's distracted by other things. You've heard from Obama that it's the Republicans who are distracted now by talking about Medicare or welfare. But I think this is just an electorate. If you look at the recent poll that you had out, in a lot of ways it hasn't moved since July. As much as these different candidates are trying to throw up different issues, whether it's about Mitt Romney's taxes or welfare or Medicare, it seems like a lot of this is already baked into the cake, and that a lot of folks have already made up their minds about these candidates. I think we'll see something of a reset going forward with these different conventions, but still it's just a battle over 3 to 5 to maybe 10% of the electorate that still isn't quite sure. So I think at this point they're trying to rev up their individual bases and using all of these issues that people in some ways have gotten over in some ways and are thinking about their pocketbooks. They have turned to these issues because it really gets people revved up. It gets people angry, and angry people are more likely to show up at the polls, and they're more likely to make phone calls and knock on doors and get out there and make a real grassroots push for their candidate.
And Michael, let me push back to this Wall Street Journal NBC poll, and they were asked about the impact of the Ryan pick. 22% said it was more likely to vote for Romney as a result. 23% said less likely to vote for Romney. 54% said does not affect the vote. And as Nia Malika pointed out, some of the thinking, at least right after the announcement came down, was that this would really bring some enthusiasm from conservatives, those people who were questioning Mitt Romney's credibility or credentials, and they'd see this guy, this Paul Ryan, and believe that maybe Romney is on the right direction on some of those issues. But we're not seeing that bump here. What do you think of that?
I think the expectation, the hope had been from the Romney campaign that 2 weeks in, it would be a conversation about fiscal responsibility, and instead it's been a conversation largely about the net effect of his plan vis-a-vis Medicare and now abortion. That's not where they hoped it was headed going into Tampa.
And Jonathan, let me get your thoughts on that. I mean, you've got 54% saying it doesn't affect their vote at all, 23% saying less likely to vote for Romney as a result.
Well, no. I mean, most academic studies show that in total, the vice presidential candidate doesn't do that much to the national ballot, but where it counts is in the home state. And we did see a poll yesterday by Triple P, which is a liberal polling firm, that showed that now Wisconsin is actually, Romney is in the lead there. So there has been a huge jump in Wisconsin, which is really where it's going to matter. I mean, if they can take Wisconsin from being a blue state and turn that into a toss-up category and actually win it, that creates all kinds of electoral math problems for the Democrats.
And then, by the way, we're going to take a look at Wisconsin and some of the other battleground states and see if there's an uptick as a result of Ryan. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. Up next, Mitt Romney.